The United States is considered to be the land of dreams, where anyone can make it big if they work hard enough and stay committed. But that's just not true anymore. We are now living in two different Americas, one for the rich and one for the poor. And today we'll tell you about both of them. Welcome to our channel. Today we'll show you what life is like in the two Americas, the one for the rich and the one for the poor. Number 10. The infrastructure. The infrastructure of a country says a lot about the country itself. And when we compare the American infrastructure with some other first world countries, it falls way short. Potholes are everywhere. Roads need repair. Bridges are old and rusty. There are more homeless people sleeping under the bridges than actually using them. It seems like the city only fixes the roads after a car crashes on them. Many Americans live in areas where the water supply isn't clean or even drinkable. They have to buy water bottles with the money they could use for food. The poor people in America spend most of their time in traffic jams. It takes them hours to get from one place to another. If they could use public transportation, but most cities don't have good public transportation, so they are forced to sit in traffic. The American railway system is underdeveloped compared to Europe, so traveling by train is not an option for Americans. In fact, in some parts of Europe, you can travel by train to every major city, but there isn't a single train route in America that connects all of the states. A trip that would take 4 hours by car takes 36 hours by train. No. 9. Healthcare. The United States has the most expensive healthcare system in the world, and yet it lags behind many other developed nations in terms of quality and accessibility. People who are born into poverty in America never really escape it because they are born without health insurance, which means that if they fall ill, they won't seek treatment in time, and their illness will get worse. And once they develop a chronic disease, it will follow them for the rest of their lives, keeping them poor. Those born into wealth, on the other hand, have access to top-notch medical care and facilities, which keeps them healthy and wealthy. However, the cost of medical treatment in America is outrageous. For example, a visit to the doctor costs $120 on average. A specialist visit costs around $200. Dental checkups cost at least $100. All these expenses quickly add up and become overwhelming, especially for poor people. That's why medical debt is the leading cause of bankruptcy in America. Number 8. Quality of life. The United States ranks 27 out of 111 countries in terms of quality of life. It ranks higher than Bulgaria, Romania, Serbia, Ukraine, Algeria, Tunisia, Libya, Turkey, Brazil, China, and India, but lower than Canada, Germany, Sweden, Norway, Switzerland, Austria, Denmark, Finland, Czechia, Japan, Australia, New Zealand, and all of the Western European countries. Compared to the rich, poor people in the U.S. have a significantly lower quality of life. They have less access to education, healthcare, and decent housing. This means that they are more likely to die young, be illiterate, and live in poverty-stricken areas. And since they don't have much spare time, they can't enjoy life either. Poor Americans work long and hard to barely get by, while the rich live luxurious lifestyles, taking vacations to exotic places all the time. Number 7. Work culture. The U.S. is a country where people are obsessed with working more. It doesn't matter if it's the weekend or a holiday, Americans always think about work. This attitude is drilled into them ever since they start school. You see, the education system in the U.S. is designed in a way that encourages students to compete with each other. From the moment they start school, they are taught that only a few of them will succeed in life, and most will end up working dead-end jobs. This creates a huge pressure cooker effect where everyone is trying to outperform the other person. But in reality, most of these people are just cogs in the machine, replaceable parts of the system. Although they do essential work, they never receive recognition for it. On the other hand, those born into wealth usually pursue white-collar careers, such as law, finance, or politics. These careers may not be physically demanding, but they often require long hours of brain work. So in the end, it doesn't really matter whether someone works in a factory or an office, because in both cases, the work-life balance is non-existent. No. 6. Education. As we've already mentioned, the education system in America is highly competitive. Children from poor families don't have the best schools, while the children of the rich attend elite schools with low student-teacher ratios and extracurricular activities. And this inequality starts right in kindergarten. Teachers in low-income areas receive lower salaries and work in dilapidated buildings. Some schools in poor areas don't even have libraries or computers. While schools in wealthier areas offer everything their students might need to succeed in life, sometimes too much. Imagine attending a high school where the principal is paid $350,000 per year, but the janitors haven't received their salaries for 3 months. That's the sad reality of the U.S. education system. Moreover, parents in wealthy areas hire private tutors for their kids to help them get into prestigious universities. Unfortunately, the education gap between rich and poor Americans is getting wider every day. 5. Living wage. The richest 1% of Americans earn more than the bottom 42% combined. In other words, the top 1% of earners in the U.S. make more than all of the people making less than $61,000 per year. Meanwhile, the minimum wage in the U.S. is still $7.25 per hour. Although 5 states have increased their minimum wages to $15, of course, those working for minimum wage still can't afford basic necessities. That's why 16 states offer tax credits to people who work full-time for minimum wage so they can qualify for health insurance. As you can see, the situation in the United States is dire. Although it used to be considered the land of opportunity, it has become a place where success depends entirely on circumstances of birth. And the sad part is that nothing is being done to change that. 4. Personal debt. The average American household carries a debt load of $131,724. This includes mortgages, student loans, auto loans, and credit card debt. The largest share of this debt is made up of mortgages, which account for about 70% of the total. Student loan debt accounts for another 12%. Auto loans make up 9% of the debt load, while credit card debt accounts for the remaining 19%. The burden of debt is especially heavy on millennials, who carry an average debt load of $17,449. That's more than twice the amount carried by baby boomers at the same age. Millennials are also more likely than previous generations to carry credit card debt. The reasons for this are numerous. Millennials tend to have less financial stability than their predecessors. They are also more likely to have taken out loans to finance their education. Furthermore, millennials are more likely to have purchased a car with a loan, and they are also more likely to have used credit cards to make purchases. The result is a mountain of debt that is weighing down the American millennial. 3. Housing. The housing crisis in America is not a new phenomenon. It's been going on for decades. But in recent years, it has become increasingly dire. The cost of housing has skyrocketed in many parts of the country, and this has left many Americans unable to afford a home. The median home price in the U.S. is now $428,000, which is up by 15% over the past year. Rents are also on the rise, up by 10% over the past year. 2. Hunger. It's hard to believe, but in America, over 40 million people struggle with hunger. That's 12.3% of the entire population. In fact, the U.S. has one of the highest rates of food insecurity among developed countries. And according to Feeding America, 38.3 million people in the U.S. are living in a household that is defined as food insecure. Food insecurity refers to the state of being without reliable access to a sufficient quantity of affordable, nutritious food. But it doesn't mean that these people are necessarily homeless or living in poverty. Sometimes a sudden job loss or an unexpected medical expense can push a family into food insecurity. 1. Poverty rate. According to the U.S. Census Bureau, as of February 2022, the poverty rate in the U.S. was 12.8%, meaning that almost 13% of Americans live below the poverty line. To be more precise, a family of 3 needs to earn at least $21,310 per year to be above the poverty line. Anything less than that makes them poor. So imagine being in a country where the minimum wage is $7.25 per hour, and inflation is 8.5%. Now let's assume that someone is working a full-time job at the minimum wage, 40 hours per week, 52 weeks per year.